biggest thing is minimizing like obstacles. Like I don't want anything getting in your way as to why you can't get started.
Okay.
That's my biggest thing with why I love direct mail. On top of that, like the other thing that we look at is when we create, like when people invest in our programs, I want them to know that I will position myself as their trusted mentor and I want to be their guide through it. I want to be there because I don't build what I build for the sake of someone to give me money and not get an outcome. Like for me, it fuels my soul. I do what I do because I want to get you that outcome as fast as possible. My name is Mark Stern and you are watching Entrepreneur Unleashed.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Entrepreneur Unleashed. I'm so excited that you're here. If you've been following us at all, you know that I believe wholeheartedly in the concept of vicarious learning. The best way to shortcut your path to success is to learn from the trials and triumphs of those who've been through it. And in my studio today, I have an individual that you're absolutely going to want to pay every minute attention to this because he's going to be dropping some bombs. I'm certain of it. Mark, thank you so much for being here.
Thrilled to be here.
Mark, as I said, this is an opportunity for those to learn vicariously through others. I'd like you to take about a minute and give us a snapshot of who you are right now and what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Mark Stern, and I run the Custom Box Agency. We show clients how to use direct mail not only to acquire customers, but also to extend their lifetime value. So, you know, direct mail is just our channel for how we activate really that customer journey.
Well, when you say direct mail, because marketing right now is all over the map, and most business owners, at least the ones that I'm talking to a lot, are spending all of their time and attention on social media. But direct mail, I mean, isn't that like the 90s?
I know. What I love about direct mail is it's such a legacy channel, but it's so powerful because one thing that you can't do in an online channel is the kinesthetic, the touch, the feel.
Okay.
When we talk about really how to create experience, you know, when you go to a live event, you go to Disney World, one thing that Disney World does so well is it stimulates all the senses. When you look at a social or digital channel, you really are stimulating what you see and what you hear. What I love about direct mail, especially when you blend it with a lot of these new channels, is not only can I tap into what you see and what you hear with a virtual or digital experience, I can bring in the physical to complement it. So you activate a lot more senses to create something. I can't recreate going to Disney World, but there's still an experience that I can send to your home that I can bring to life.
Okay. How did you actually get involved in direct mail, though? Because like that's not like I know a little bit about your story, but I know that that's not how it started. So,
dude, it was when I say it's an accidental business, this was never meant to be the business.
Okay.
It started, so I left corporate America in 2018.
Because you were with Deloitte, if I remember correctly.
With the consulting firm Deloitte, yeah. So that lifestyle for me was like everything. Like I woke up at 4:45 a.m. in the morning every Monday, went to the airport, lived as a road warrior for years. And the one thing about Deloitte is when you work with a company like that, they own everything you produce within and outside of the firm.
Yeah. So
I literally had to leave the firm in order to even start a business. Right. And the first thing that I did out of the gates, I had heard about this thing called a virtual summit, that I can host my own conference and engage with other speakers. And selfishly, it was an opportunity to pick their brains and learn from their genius, especially as a new entrepreneur. But what I did was I created this product that was meant to be a lead magnet that everyone told me it was like a well beyond a lead magnet, called Entrepreneur Elements. And I was like, how do I get this in more people's hands? Okay. I transcribed all 40 speakers of this virtual summit.
Oh my goodness.
Married it with this product, Entrepreneur Elements. And for everyone who bought the recordings to the summit, I sent them this publication. Okay. And then I mailed it to all of the speakers. And what I did not expect to happen was that everyone started to go live, showing off their page, demonstrating all the social proof, taking it with them, referencing it. So all of a sudden there was this thing that was happening offline that was coming back to the social channels because I had mailed them something. Had I not mailed them something, I wouldn't have those unboxing and reveal videos. And that was the first time I was just like, well, there's something organic that's happening because I sent them something. And that's where this all started.
When you look at that decision, because when it happened, when that first video got published live of them unboxing this package that you sent out, like what was the first thing that went through your mind? Because I don't imagine that you said, oh, this is now a new business. Yeah. Like what does that run through your mind at that point?
I think the aha I had was like the strategy here that revealed itself that was never meant to be intentional was by putting other influencers and featuring them within the publication, I brought a sense of credibility to them that an online call out just simply can't do.
Right.
It elevated their status, and by that simple recognition, that for me was this aha that was like, that's a little bit of a game changer. I had all these people organically promote my publication,
right,
because I had featured them in it, and they were just proud to be featured. It up-leveled them. And that alone was just like, this is anytime we do a summit, we have to include something physical in there. Okay. That's where it all started.
And then ultimately, obviously, led to where you are now. But before we get to that story, how did you, you made a decision to go into corporate before going into business on your own. So, what were some of the decision-making processes you went through in your beginning stages of going out into the workforce?
So one thing you need to know about me is I was born and raised that there's a natural progression to life.
Yeah.
That you graduate high school, and then you go to college, and you graduate college, get the dream job, eventually go to grad school, and then get the final job and pick a fence, and life is just great. I was the poster child of that life.
Okay.
To a T. I was crushing it. So if you had known me, I was president of my high school, my college, and my grad school. I had one job before business school, which was my dream job, one job after business school. And, it took up till, 2012 when I graduated from Duke University, when I got my MBA. I had $165,000 in student loan debt. And now I had this 2-year contract with Deloitte minimum. And this whole, I can't even be an entrepreneur in that environment.
Right.
And you kind of have those moments that you're just like, is this what I've been working towards?
Right.
This is what everyone around me, I didn't know anyone around me that was different than me. We all were exactly the same. So for me, corporate was the only option. I didn't know there was another option.
And that's an interesting point, because you're keying in on something that is a reality for most. It's you were surrounded by the same, which meant there was no real idea or ideation possible to get or become different. And a lot of business owners, even in the business environment or employees, are in similar circumstance. They're surrounded by all the same type of people, and therefore they have no chance to up-level or take themselves to it, or even just not necessarily up-level, just change paths. How scary was that for you?
For me, the changing paths happened unexpectedly.
Okay.
It was going to conferences, and my bubble, I thought I was crushing it in my bubble. I was happy in my bubble. I didn't know better.
Right.
That moment and I look at this moment, it's like, sometimes I yearn for those moments in life that you realize nothing will ever be the same again. For me, I came across a YouTube video of a Mind Valley conference called A-Fest. This was in 2013.
Okay.
I had no business being at this conference. I saw a video online. I applied to go. And then I went. I tried to get my other friends to go with me. The way they described it was TED Talks meets Burning Man parties.
Okay.
It sounded intriguing. It was in a 5-star destination location. It changes every year. And that was like me going, I need to see something different. Did not know what I'd be introduced to. And that event was the first time I met digital marketers.
Wow.
And it was devastating. It was like you show up to an event, and this was an event that had Yannick Silver, Andre Chaperon, Noah Kagan, some big players in the game.
Yeah.
And people were talking about this thing called a mastermind, and I'm like, I have no idea what that is. And literally had a moment there that I had to excuse myself, and I just lost it.
Wow.
Because my world that I knew, my bubble, it shattered.
Yeah.
And it just gave you that new lens that when I went back to corporate America the next week, unlocked this whole world for me that I couldn't talk to anyone about, because everyone was like where I came from, not this new world that I was exposed to. And it's not a world that you can force people to see.
Definitely not.
It's a world that they have to be ready to embrace it.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. When you look at being ready to embrace it, though, it took you years to get to that point.
Absolutely.
When you looked at selecting the path that you took, I mean, that was what was basically, this is what was laid out for you in advance. How did you get to a point where you were ready to learn something that you were never exposed to? Like, what was it that was the catalyst to say, okay, I'm going to this conference, but now I'm going to open my mind and I'm going to say, you know what, it's okay that I don't know everything and I'm willing to expose myself. Like, what was it that did that for you?
It started with years of going to all the conferences, Funnel Hacking Live, Traffic and Conversion Summit, buying all the courses. I joined coaching programs even though I couldn't launch a business.
Okay.
It took a moment of realizing that this was a panacea for something underlining that was happening. And for me, it all came to a head. I remember it vividly because it was December 27th, 2017. I remember it vividly because I woke up in the middle of the night with tears in my eyes and a premonition that if I don't quit this job, it will kill me. That was the feeling. Verge of becoming a junior partner at Deloitte. I had the ratings. Wow. I was literally weeks away. It will happen because it's that predictable in that type of environment. You just know when you're going to get promoted. And was sitting at a moment of like fear of if I don't change. I did not know what I was going to do when I left corporate America, but I did have this sensation that it would kill me.
Wow.
Never in my life have I experienced anything like that, and it didn't take much. Went to Dallas to meet up with one of my partners. It was January 3rd, and told him I can't explain it, but I've got to go.
This is not for me.
And I told him I'll stay as long as you need. I ended up staying for 5 months, but put in a 5-month notice. But I wanted to make sure they were in good hands.
Right.
And I didn't know what it was that would be my calling, but it felt right. It was the feeling that was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that when I can clear my mind and take like all of the, I don't want to say gunk, but like when you're in that type of environment, like your mindset, you're preoccupied to think about starting a business.
Right.
I just knew if I can release that out of my brain, I can get back into a creative space. I can figure out something that really fuels me because I had lost that sense of me in that environment.
So then it's the summer of 2017 now, and your first thought is to do these virtual summits to bring people together in order to learn, in order to educate them, and then give them a deliverable at the end. And that deliverable was the catalyst that changed the direction of what you're doing.
And it was funny because it was so obvious at the time, but I didn't see it. It took me until COVID to see it. Was the crazy part. So.
Well, I think it wasn't obvious to most people, even though it was obvious to you maybe, but for most people it's not obvious. Let's talk about what you're doing now. So you're essentially taking old school methodology and bringing it into the modern age with regard to the delivery of a tangible that people can connect with and is something that has a little bit more staying power, right? It's not something it's not like the junk you get from, like, what do they call it? Like swag and things of that nature, right? So help me to understand why you chose what you're doing now and how that's different than what, like, I get mailers in the mail all the time for like pens and pencils and stuff that has my brand on it.
Yeah. You're right. So we always joke and say when people think custom boxes, they think instantly, oh, you're sending me swag, like hats, T-shirts, sunglasses.
Right.
We joke and say, stop with the swag. Swag is stuff without a goal. I want intention. And part of what I want to look at is how do we really accelerate like your customers, whether you have a product or service, how do we get them the outcome faster?
Okay.
So when we look at direct mail, we can say, the customer life cycle is you acquire a customer, then you deliver your products and services, and then you want to retain them. Those are 3 different campaigns for how we think about direct mail and how to leverage direct mail across those 3 different parameters. Because I will do something different to acquire a customer, because it's going to be about how do I build a relationship with you with leveraging the direct mail channel. And it's not just about direct mail. It's about blending direct mail and sending you back to a virtual channel as well.
Right.
I wanted you to, like, the way I always look at how we do boxes is more around a board game.
Okay.
You don't buy Monopoly, take the top off and see a note that says, thank you for purchasing, go to this website to download the money and all the things that you need to get started. Right. That's what so many online businesses do. They make it so hard for people to get started. Okay. Don't assume that I'm going to print something out because you're assuming I have a printer that has ink, it has paper, it's hooked up to my computer, and I'm organized. If something goes wrong, that instantly becomes an obstacle to my success. Wow. So when we start to think about direct mail and how to leverage direct mail, it is how do we take off all those excuses and then give people a clear pathway. So when we work with clients, the 2 things that I start with are, what's the outcome? Because we have to know where we're sending people.
Okay.
If you have to know what that outcome looks like. And then how do they get started? So start here is the 2 words that I say everyone needs to be using in their business, the word start here.
Okay.
Because one of the things that we commonly see is that people tend to leave when they feel overwhelmed or if they feel like they're being set up to become a failure.
Right.
The power of starting with a good onboarding process is just about giving people clarity on how to navigate in the tools that they need to do it. So many entrepreneurs are not even doing that. And then they're questioning why people aren't getting the results. You've not defined the process for them.
That's powerful. Those 2 words change everything, right?
Yeah.
Because you're giving direction as to where to begin. You're setting context, because now even in that 2-word phrase, they know that there's something else beyond that. Because you're just starting here, you're going on a journey. When you look at the customer journey itself, then, like how do you, like, because what you just described, I think, is the pain point of most business owners, is figuring out, how do I court the customer in the beginning to make them a customer in the first place? And then how do I continue to court them forever?
Yeah.
So tell me more about that.
Yeah, so this is like, we have a framework that I like to take clients through. It's called the Jewels, the Tools, and the Rules.
Jewels, Tools, and Rules.
And where this all started, and this is like, for me, this is like a massive transformation I had when I turned 30. When I was growing up, my feet toed in really terribly. Okay. I remember my earliest memories are my parents taking me all over Alabama and the surrounding states to go see doctors who just told me to walk. So there was this spotlight on, I don't walk like everyone else. And even when I tried to play sports as a kid, I would always trip over my feet. When I turned 30, I set a goal to do a 5K every month for 12 months straight. Simple. But
I don't know about simple.
I mean, like, for me, I was like, and here's what I wanted of that experience. I wanted the jewel, which to me was the medal and the T-shirt, because I wanted to document this journey.
Okay.
And so January, February, March, April, I did it. And then we hit May, and I was like, I'm kind of getting bored with these 5Ks.
All right.
So ended up seeing if you remember Groupon, I think Groupon's still a thing.
I don't know. I know. I remember them. I don't know if they're still a thing or
It was a big deal when I lived in Chicago, because that's where they're based. But they had this ad for a Spartan race. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, I know
obstacle
Spartan race.
course race. And so I'm like, it's a 5K, the sprint, and it's like 3 to 5 miles. This is going to be what I'm doing in May.
Okay.
Booked it, and as the days got closer to this race, I started having the doubts of like, I'm looking at these pictures of people doing obstacle course races. I don't look like them. What if I can't do the obstacles? Am I going to make a fool of myself? Like, it was all this negative talk that was preventing me from wanting to even get started with this. And I just kept on saying, well, this is your May medal. You have to do it.
You have to do it. Okay.
And just drug myself out of bed, got ready, started it. And every minute of that, I was like, man, you can turn back.
I don't want to, we need to key in on this for a second, because I think what you just said is important. We constantly get involved in this negative self-talk.
Yeah.
How did you get beyond that? Like, what was it? It had to be more than just getting that May medal. Like, did you have you prepped your mindset like beforehand, or have you studied mindset or reorientation? Like, what was it?
It's a great question. I think at the time I was like, it was the last week of May. Like, if I did not do it, then I'm not going to meet this goal that I set for the year. Was part of it, but also it was just put one step in front of the other, and that was it. Was that like, it's fine if you turn back, but just one step closer.
Okay,
and that led me to crossing the starting line and starting the race.
Right.
But here's like what was fascinating about what Spartan did was I crossed the finish line. I got the medal. I was giggling the whole time. It was such an incredible experience. There was so much inspiration on the course. But Spartan gave me my jewel, the medal.
Right.
But then they gave me a third of a medal. And they said, okay, now it's time to complete your trifecta. So the course is providing them the tools. The rules are to do your trifecta. You have to do it in a calendar year, and you have to do a sprint, a super, which is an 8 to 10 miler, and a beast, which is a half marathon.
Oh my goodness.
So
I'm tired just hearing that. I'm sorry.
But the power of it is like Spartan held a bigger vision for me than I held for myself. Yes. And I think that's our role as an entrepreneur, is that we need to hold a bigger vision for our people than they hold for themselves. So when I mentioned like the jewels, the tools, and the rules, they gave me a jewel, which was the medal, and then they reset the jewel, which became the trifecta medal. That system is so powerful. And then the second I started recognizing it, it's no different than what you see with Taekwondo and the belts on the journey between white to black belt. You have to collect all the belts in between. Every belt you collect means a different level of proficiency. You may want the black belt. What about the underlining meaning is you are now like an expert in Taekwondo. It's no different than becoming an Eagle Scout. When you start as a Cub Scout on your journey to becoming an Eagle Scout, you collect all the jewels, the different badges as you uprank towards Eagle Scout. Eagle Scout is the label, but it represents the fact that you're this amazing Samaritan who has proven yourself to be just a good person to becoming the Eagle Scout. The reality from a business perspective is as you introduce these new jewels, it's also increasing lifetime value of your customers. So you have to keep playing the game to get the next piece, to be one step closer to the outcome. No different than a 2 Comma Club award. A 2 Comma Club award is a jewel. This is for in ClickFunnels. Once you make $1 million using the platform, they'll award you with this. People want the 2 Comma Club award.
Right.
The reality is you have a 7-figure business. It's huge.
Exactly.
You've generated 7 figures of revenue. It's a retention play for ClickFunnels. The game doesn't stop. Now it's time to go after the 2 Comma Club X award, generate $10 million.
Right.
It's never going to end.
Exactly.
Because they painted the pathway. They introduced a new jewel again and again and again. How do you increase lifetime value? If you keep demonstrated that desired outcome, they're going to keep playing.
Yeah.
And they're going to keep playing. So.
It's an amazing lesson for a business owner to learn, though. Like you learned it because obviously this is your realm with regard to the marketing aspect of it, but just the concept alone of being able to apply something like that within your business, which it sounds like you're helping other business owners do through their marketing initiatives. Like, how do you help a business owner understand the rules component of that then?
Yeah. Rules are all about minimizing overwhelm.
Okay.
So I'll use 2 Comma Club as an example. The rules for 2 Comma Club is you have to generate $1 million. You have to do it using ClickFunnels, and you have to submit for it.
Okay.
If you don't make $1 million,
already
you
done.
can't get it.
Right.
If you don't do it with ClickFunnels, you can't get it. If you don't submit for it, they're not going to come find you and do it. So the whole point of having rules is so many people don't set good parameters or guidance for their people. So what do? They fill the gaps. So this is kind of where the rules come in play. You know, for Spartan, I have to get my trifecta in a calendar year. That's a rule.
And for the audience, I just want to make sure I'm clarifying. When you say for your people, you're talking about for your customers.
For your customers,
making your
correct.
customer understand what are the rules for the value add that you're delivering, whatever your business may be.
You're right. And the goal with rules is to minimize overwhelm and chaos. Okay. You know, if you don't set rules, chaos can pursue. It's all about providing some guidance so you know what you need to achieve and in what context. Okay. If you play any board game, they're always going to have rules. If you played Monopoly and you can roll the dice and go left or right, it fundamentally changes the game.
Right.
If you play checkers and I play on the black squares and you play on the red squares and you know we can go diagonally,
nothing
fundamentally changes the game. Yeah. Rules are all about minimizing overwhelm and making sure chaos doesn't pursue, because in those scenarios, it has the potential to change everything. Rules are a good thing.
It's a hugely good thing. I mean, I'm a purveyor of rules. I enjoy it. I'm a lawyer by trade, so I love rules in general. When you think about the concept of taking that customer through the journey, though, you've decided to do that in a tactful nature, like with actual touch, like sensation. Like, why did you choose that? Like, there's so many different ways to engage with a customer electronically nowadays, but you're doing it in a physical form. Like, tell me about that process.
Yeah, physical to me is biggest thing is minimizing like obstacles. Like, I don't want anything getting in your way as to why you can't get started.
Okay. That's
my biggest thing with why I love direct mail. On top of that, like the other thing that we look at is when we create, like when people invest in our programs, I want them to know that I will position myself as their trusted mentor, and I want to be their guide through it. I want to be there because I don't build what I build for the sake of someone to give me money and not get an outcome. Like for me, it fuels my soul. I do what I do because I want to get you that outcome as fast as possible. So this is kind of where, like for me, why do I like the physical? Like it's how we start to look at the role of physical is there are things that we naturally save in our lives. How do I engineer it in a way that when you see it on your bookshelf or when you see this piece, it's a reminder of why you invested that in the first place. So there's just so much value in physical that you just can't do with the digital product. I have spent tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on digital products that are outdated or are behind login walls that I don't even remember what the login is.
Right.
If it's physical and it's there in front of your face, you can't miss it.
Give me an example of what you mean by the things we naturally keep.
Yeah.
Because I think that's important too.
This is one of those things that, and it's so funny how like the little things that you nerd out too. But, there are different types of things. And for me, there's 4 big ones that I look at as things that we naturally save in our lives. So when we think about a physical experience, how do we start to take lessons learned from these? One, when you read a book, typically people don't throw out a book when they read it. They put it on a bookshelf.
Put it on the bookshelves.
And there are books on bookshelves that have been there for years, if not decades. That's an example. Things that we can reference, we typically hold on to. I even say like your grandmother's recipe box. Chances are that will be a hand-me-down that like never leaves the family. There's another category I call play and replay. Board games.
Oh, play and replay. Okay, that makes sense.
Board games, there are closets around America that have board game closets. You don't buy Monopoly and play it once and throw it out.
Right.
You end up saving it. It's the container that holds the experience, but it's no different than DVDs, CDs, VHS tapes, cassette tapes. My father still has his 8-tracks and his vinyl records. He has no means to play them, but he still has them. And it's the replayability of it that I think is really powerful. Even sporting equipment. You know, you look at sports equipment that people have at home, they don't play it once and throw it out. Typically, they hold on to it. So this element of replayability, the entertainment value out of it, tends to be something we save. Recognition. When you get an award, my grandfather's Purple Heart, my 2 Comma Club Award, my graduation certificate from college and grad school. What is a certificate? It's a piece of paper that's framed. It's a piece of paper.
Quite literally,
but
yes.
we hold on to it. I know that there's households across America that have empty nesters that still have soccer trophies for when their child was 4 years old that they still hold on to. But anything of recognizing people, recognition gives you, I say, a value driver status.
Yeah.
If it recognizes people, chances are you're going to save it. And the last one is, if you know you're going to collect something, anything that's a collectible. Legos, Beanie Babies, Pogs, baseball cards, anything antiques. If you know its position as a collectible, and this is where from what we do, an easy strategy is I can say this is box 1 of 4. If I create the momentum to say, I know that I'm going to create this open loop and you want to collect all the pieces. Like my father and I, when the U.S. came out with a quarter for every state, we had this map that we were collecting every single quarter until it was a fun thing to do. But like, if you're going to collect something, are you going to throw it out? Probably not. You're probably collecting it, stamp collections, you name it. So whether it's something you reference, whether it's something that has the replayability, recognition, collection, these different elements, you know, there's so much strategy in terms of how to think through leveraging the direct mail channel in terms of how you're building out that customer experience, because we know what people save.
Now, when you're looking at those 4 different categories of the savings, if you will, like the things that people save, like how can a traditional business owner, like let's say it's a business owner that has like a brick and mortar type of business, it's not an e-commerce business, et cetera, like how would they leverage something like this, this type of strategy? Yeah,
and with brick and mortar, a lot of what you want to look at is how do I get you back in the store?
Right.
And so to me, again, this is where any type of journey map, we've talked with chiropractors that, you know, the message that they say is that, you know, they may have a patient that needs to come in for 12 visits and there's they break it down into different phases based on the number of visits, but they're like by the 4th or 5th visit, you may feel better, but you're not
finished.
You're not finished. Part of it is when I think about a physical experience is how do I educate them in the way so they know that and they just don't go based on, well, I don't need to go back. I feel so much better. So you think about like, how are we educating them through the journey of what we're asking them to do?
Okay.
There's different ways you can incentivize it. This is where I think loyalty programs come in really powerfully. For me, when the conversations I have with chiropractors is usually they have other products and services that they want to spotlight. So although it may be about the realignment, if you make your 4th visit, then how do I also introduce the fact that you now can, you know, get access to our massage services or meet with a nutritionist or spotlight some of the other products. The physical part of this to me is almost building the game board, the journey of what they want to do. If we want them to come in 12 times, can I give them a physical piece that shows them you're here once, here's what 12 is, there's surprises that unlock along the way. There's all different ways you can leverage that journey to encourage that. Brick and mortar, though, to me, I think is such a big opportunity. But I want to have that physical presence to remind you
100%.
to finish it. Yeah, and I want to incentivize you. That's the jewel. How do I put the right jewel in place to keep you coming back so you can collect all the pieces?
Now, transitioning then over to the digital side of the spectrum, for those digital entrepreneurs, why should they be considering something that's physical?
Yeah.
Like what's the reasoning behind that?
You can't unbox a digital product. The
Very
amount
true.
of organic traffic we see, we've done virtual events that we've had 20 to 25% of the people post before the event even started.
Because they've received something
physical. And we've seen people break down in tears over it. Those moments you can't capture as easily with a digital. The other piece, and one of the things that a lot of people like in the digital space don't do a good job doing is how do we put those feedback loops to collect the insights of the success our people have. I have met people that have been through programs of mine that came back to me and said, we implemented what you said, and it added another 6 figures to our bottom line. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me this? Like,
exactly.
Why am I like finding out because I ran into you at a conference?
Right.
When I start to think about like a digital or online experience again, like I love to subscribe to, I use P90X as an example because it's so great. Are you familiar with that? 2000s,
Yeah.
Tony Horton.
Yeah.
They didn't give you a t-shirt for buying P90X.
No.
If you sent them your transformation, the before and after, day 1 and day 90, then you got the t-shirt. T-shirt marked transformation. For me, when it comes to a digital product, there's something that like a physical thing can do that a digital only asset can't do. I can celebrate you in a different way. I mean, for me, that digital certificate's not the same thing as getting something physical that I could really show off and put on the wall. So that's kind of where it's like, it doesn't have to be a certificate, but the jewel can be anything. It's just a mark that you went through a transformation. I'm here to celebrate you, and I see you. We're all human at the end of the day. So many different ways to leverage it, but in my mind, that's where for so many different people is like, I want you to have a quick win. Then can I incentivize that quick win with a jewel, as we call it, and then introduce the next step and incentivize behavior. This is the, if you have kids, it's no different than, if you could sit still for 2 hours, I'll take you to McDonald's or to the toy store and you can pick out a toy you want. I think at the end of the day, like people want to feel seen, and this is an easy way to celebrate them and indoctrinate them into your community is to do it. I like a box at the beginning to set the experience up and make sure they're set up for success. Then I like to introduce things throughout to celebrate them as they get those milestones and provide those feedback loops so we can get those testimonials, we can collect those insights, we can get that social proof that people are proud to show off.
So everything you're sharing is essentially, you're talking it from the framework of marketing. But in reality, you're just talking about practice management, really. I mean, business management, because you're talking about operational efficiency to the end goal, which is ongoing customer relationship.
Yep.
And that is the holy grail for every business, right? Being able to keep your customer so involved in that ongoing experience with you as the proprietor. Like, how don't people get that? Like, I know I struggle a lot with this from time to time, and I'm trying to get better. I know that there's hundreds, if not thousands, of business owners out there that are in the same boat. How do you educate a business owner to realize the value of this?
Yeah, it's such a great question. For me, the best part about our product is it sells itself in a brilliant way that once people see it, they see how they can apply it to their business. For me, it all hinges back on how easy are we making it for our people to win? And that's where when I come into businesses, I can't even tell you how many. It was funny. I was on another podcast and someone asked me the question, which is what we accidentally do all the time. Our vehicle is direct mail, but a lot of what we're looking at is, do you have a clean customer experience? Do you have a process that you truly can take them through, or is it they start and then it's confusing and chaos? We structure that. We force clarity, because if I have to produce a box around it, I can't produce a box out of a bad offer or a lack of understanding who your avatar is. I just can't. I can't produce a process out of somewhere where you don't know where you're sending people. I think that one of the biggest value props that we offer is that we force clarity on how you communicate that outcome. And through this, like when we build out these processes, it also builds out your sales materials too, because you can take those assets and then turn around and showcase that as a reason why you should start working. But a confused mind never buys. The more simple that we can make things. Never did I think that this business would force clarity the way it has with a lot of the clients that we work with, but in a really powerful way. It's not like a lead magnet that if you want to update it, you can just upload it, to the G drive and change the URL. When it goes to print, you want to make sure it's something that represents you and provides a clear success path for your people.
I think that a lot of business owners, though, would feel a sense of overwhelm when it comes to this, because essentially what you're saying like, yeah, I have this great thing that we can give to customers, but you have to do all this work first and foremost to like make sure the infrastructure is set to be able to implement that thing. Yeah. Because I had a conversation with another business owner. This was probably within the past 2 or 3 weeks, and we were talking about systemization of their business in general. And I asked a question. I said, if I was able to, and this is not my business, so I don't do this type of thing, but I asked him this question. I said, if I was able to send you 1,000 customers tomorrow, would that make or break your business? Mm-hmm. And if the answer, this is my opinion now, if the answer is anything other than make it, is a problem. Because if it's going to break your business, that means your infrastructure is in place. And I do focus a lot on systems and systemization in what I teach, and also how to deal with all the money issues that are related. Like, what's the conversation like typically with you and those business owners that may be saying, well, wait a minute, I'm a bit overwhelmed. This sounds like a lot of work. Mm.
Typically what I tell them is they don't need to know all the answers.
Okay.
We take people through a series of workshops for that reason. Okay. How do we minimize overwhelm for people? I found that when I like ask you for things or ask you to come back to me with things, it's not going to get done. It's not going to get done right. And it may get done, but it may go down a rabbit hole that like they're more confused. The biggest thing is, I think this is where like asking the right question, asking good questions is powerful, but why we've restructured our process is I want to make it as easy for you as possible. Okay. This is why when we work with clients, like we will take over the strategy, we'll take over the design, we'll take over all of it. We'll do the production, we'll set it up, we'll assemble it. We want to make it as easy as possible for you. But the one guarantee I make people is that we don't just sit around saying yes to everything you say.
Right.
I will tell you if I think something's confusing, because that's the best way I can serve you. I love the question about the 1,000 entrepreneurs, by the way, leads, by the way. Yeah. Because that is one that I want to solve.
Exactly.
As an agency owner, because that is, I worked for such big companies in the past that I look forward to today. It's funny, most entrepreneurs want a small operation.
Yeah.
I'm like, no,
let's make it bigger.
I want as big as it can get. I want warehouses all over the country. I want to have hundreds of designers and hundreds of client managers and strategists, just because we're having too much fun. But part of what I need to do is, if I'm making you overwhelmed, I've not set up my process right.
Exactly.
And that's where it's just, the more we do this, we've launched well over 100 experiences. We've coached hundreds, if not thousands of people through the process. I want it, like, I nerd out to this. Like, I think it's fun. It's like eating candy.
Yes.
So that's where I feel like I know I'm in the right space, but most people don't know the answer because, I mean, this is where I say there are certain things in life that you're the driver or you're the lemming. You know, when it comes to experience design, like, I will guide you through the process, but if it comes to Facebook ads, take my money. I will do whatever you say. And it's just like, I think that's important, is that when we force ourselves to try and be a driver in the zone that's not where we should be playing.
Yeah, I like to say that the 7 magic words that every entrepreneur needs to learn and adopt and put into practice. Find the who to implement the how, right? You have your own zone of genius. Now you have to find the right person to actually do it for you.
I just thought you were going to look at me and be like, no.
Maybe.
But for some people, that is the right. No, but that's great. No, I couldn't agree with that more. I think that is,
we get overwhelmed. And
100%.
And the reality is that's natural. So just choose not to by finding the right people to do the things that you're overwhelmed by.
Yeah.
It's a business after all. I mean, if you're in business, there are pluses and there are minuses to it. We have to understand that there are those pluses and minuses, and then try to use the right math to make it work, because it's all math. It's not magic.
It is. I agree with that too. But like, it's funny because people can look at our business and be like, oh my gosh, that hurts my head to think how all these pieces come together. I don't want you to worry about how those pieces come together. That's where I like that complexity for me. The world I came from in corporate America was crazy complex like that. I also like it that it makes it a little bit more challenging to compete with like our model, because there are a lot of pieces that come together. But for the client, that's not what I want to show. And I know for me, when I get overwhelmed, it is the fastest way to lose me. You will see me shut down. This is why when I go to live events, I love going to conferences. But once my cup is full from speakers, I got to get out of the room.
Time to go.
I'm out of the room.
Yeah. When you look at your journey thus far, I mean, you've had some astounding success in what you're doing, mainly because what you're doing is so very needed by so many business owners. But I know that there are things that are probably on your list of the next thing to do. So like looking at where you are now, what is the next step for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. Next step for me is I think the biggest thing that I did that was a game changer for my business was focus. I had 2 different businesses. One was in virtual events, and now this custom box business. Switching and focusing on custom box was a game changer. Now, within that realm, there's endless opportunities. Eventually, because our model, the experience that we take people through, there's a couple of different areas. One is how do we get this more accessible to more people? Because I think people need what we have to offer. Launching a done with you and a do-it-yourself option just allows it to become more accessible to more people. And for us, like, we have a lot of capabilities that we could support them in the back end. So from a business perspective, that is one avenue. The other avenue is we have a really powerful rinse and repeat model. I can take my exact same business model and splice off and hire a CEO to run a division for realtors or for chiropractors or for course creators.
So niche down
realtors.
Oh, wow.
There's a whole way that, like, we have the infrastructure, we have the systems, we have the methodology, we know how to do it. The last piece is, this is high on my radar, is we are so focused on our customers and really empowering our clients. There's a whole nother avenue that we've not even tapped into, and that's employee retention. Especially in the post-COVID era when we're talking about people working more remote and from home. And we know that retention is at an all-time low for employees. This is a whole nother avenue that we're having conversations around that, to me, can spin off an entire division of Custom Box Agency that is exclusively focused on what is that new hire experience. How do we indoctrinate them into the culture, especially when you're not going into an office? So that's a whole nother avenue that I really want to tackle later on this year.
Well, again, it sounds like you have some amazing things that are coming down the pike. I know that one of the things that a lot of entrepreneurs feel a little bit challenged with when they watch things like this online or see people's Instagram. I mean, we live in such a filtered society where all you're doing is hearing and seeing the good. But as business owners, there's tons of bad. I'm curious, if you look back just on the past couple of years now that you've been doing this, like, what would you say has been the biggest challenge that you've had to face?
Oh, it's such a good question. There's many. The biggest thing that you will realize, and I'm sure you've heard this, I'm sure you've seen this, is when you fix something, something else breaks. And it's a never-ending battle that, like, you stabilize one part of your business and then something else is going to fall apart. And I've just gotten in the mindset of when something happens and you can see the tension. I'm such a person that is like, team first. I came from an environment that was employee or your clients first at the cost of your team. I'm a full believer that you empower your team, they will over deliver for your clients. And anytime we have something like that happen, I get excited because I'm like, isn't this awesome that we're at a point now that this is falling apart? Because they know, like, I'm gonna put the attention to it to get it solved. I think that for me was the thing that surprised me the most, because the second we start to stabilize our client, like, success managers, the design department's going to break. Now it's like, oh my gosh, we're not turning these designs fast enough. So how do we start to put the systems in place for that? So I think that so much of where my energy has been a big challenge is putting in process and systems. And part of it is there's no cookie cutter way for every business on how to structure your business, especially a business like mine that there aren't people that I can easily replicate how we do. But I think the biggest thing that I've had to think through is, like, I joke and I get excited, like, isn't this awesome? Like, I don't know what the answer is, but I will also say this. When you have those moments of you feel that negative, I've learned that other people hold the keys to unlocking that. This is where, like, I can't tell you about, like, conversations I've had with just the most random people. They say something. Like, gamification for me wasn't on the front of mind. Someone was like, blah, 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 and you can gamify this. It was like they had a key and it went click. And this thing that I've just been, like, months, like, stressing over and not figuring out, all of a sudden, boom, went away instantly. And it was just because of conversations. You're stuck in your head when you try and lock yourself in a room and figure it out. Best blessing is getting part of communities of like-minded people, because they have the keys to unlocking you to the next level.
I'm 100% with you on that one. What would you say? So those were some of the struggles you've been through in the past. Like, what's something you're dealing with, like, right now?
Struggle that I'm dealing with right now. Biggest thing. The biggest struggle I have is when I started this business, employees on my team, my teammates would wear multiple hats. They may have had to be the designer and maybe the copywriter, maybe they're the sourcer as well, and the client manager. They had to wear multiple hats because there's only so many people. As we've grown, hats are coming off.
Right.
And when hats come off, a big struggle that I'm really having to put a lot of attention to is how do I preserve culture and also make sure people feel that they're valued? Because I'm seeing a direct correlation between I wore all these hats and was doing all these things, and I think that I'm seeing members of my team associate value with all the hats they wore. And now that I'm trying to empower them to step into the role that they were hired for, it's that culture shift that, I tell them that, it's going to be bumpy as we grow and prepare the business for the next phase. I did not anticipate how much of a challenge it would be from a personal standpoint when people feel like how they define their value to the company is evolving.
Right.
And I'm like, it's great because now you can stay in your zone of genius. It has been a big learning experience to watch this play out, and we're still working through it.
Yeah, going from essentially you're trying to help them shift from seeing the jewel as the number of hats to seeing the jewel as XYZ with regard to production within their zone of genius.
Totally. And the things that I have to remind them, like the transformations they love for clients is awesome. It's like game changing for them. But the human capital, and when I was at Deloitte, I worked with a big 25 retailer, and one of the best lessons I learned was you can build the perfect process, but it can be tanked by people, human capital.
Yes.
That's it. So it may be the perfect machine is built, doesn't mean it's the right machine for your people. And so this is kind of where the shifts in all the growth that we've had, the people component, how do we keep them comfortable? Because like I can't disrupt the client delivery process. I want to make sure we're delivering at the same level, but introducing in a smooth fashion new processes, new roles, new pieces, the uncertainty is creating a degree of unrest for the team.
Interesting.
Yeah.
One of the things I like to do every time I bring an entrepreneur on this show, I like to go down and do a mental thought exercise.
Sure.
If you wouldn't mind, I'd love to do that with you.
Let's do it.
Okay, it's pretty simple. I want you to imagine for a moment that you have the capability of going back in time to any point in your life. Okay, you have that ability right now, and you can go back to just one moment in your past, and you have the ability to share one thing with the younger version of you. What I'd like to know is, what version of Mark do you go back to, and what is it that you share with them?
Oh, man. I probably would go. So when I was in middle school, this is going to tie back to, not self-identifying as an athlete at the time. Growing up in Alabama, everyone wants to be an Alabama football player.
Football's that simple. It's life.
And I remember going through a phase at that middle school range that didn't matter what I did. I always felt like I was failing at everything. And like I tried sports, wasn't good at it. Tried drama, wasn't for me. Tried speech and debate, tried yearbook. And I feel like I kept on going through things, just trying to figure out like what was the thing that made me tick and really got me excited. And I struggled through it, like that was part of the identity. But I think that the lesson that I learned was it taught me failure early. I think that was such a blessing that I didn't realize. And I guess I look at that person because he never stopped. He always would try the next thing, and would fail and fail. And I remember feeling heavy with that. It took a while to figure out student government at the time was my thing.
That was your thing, right?
Which is crazy because it wasn't up to me. It was up to the students to elect me. So it wasn't something that I could sign up and do. They had to choose me.
Right.
But it was, I probably would head back and just say, embrace it, dude. Like, just keep going, keep failing, keep it up. I don't think I appreciated it as much because I feel like there was many days that was like it weighed so heavy on me. But the second I went to college and you have those marks, you just pick up and go. You don't let it stop you down. But I think there's a lot of people who haven't embraced failure.
Yes.
I think I got a heaping dose of it at that age. And could not be more grateful that on top of that, it was, I grew up in Alabama as like the token Jew, with 2 redheaded sisters. So there was just a lot of factors that were like, he is not like everyone else in that environment. Because I was me and 100 kids in Montgomery, Alabama in my class. So there was just a lot of things that were just like figuring out life, but all those things make who you are today, It's all part of your identity.
Everything adds to your library of life, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I have a second part to this thought exercise. I want you to imagine now for a moment that a future version of Mark has come back in time to this moment.
Okay.
And he's going to share something with you. What does he share?
I hope it's good. I think that I hope that a future version of myself would say, and this goes back to working at a company like Deloitte, amazing company. They teach you to suspend personal inhibitions, your personal thoughts for facts. When you come to a client with a recommendation, if they don't like your recommendation, then you say, then show me better data. Because if you show me better data, I'll make a better recommendation. So how I personally felt and what I thought was right and wrong didn't matter. It was all about, what does the data say? I hope that a future, and I think that the success I've had now as an entrepreneur is learning to tap back into that intuition. I need the data, but I also have learned that logically it may make sense, but if something feels off, to lean into that intuition. I hope that a future self says that just keep trusting your gut. Keep trusting what feels right to you, because I don't know. I feel like it's rewarded me in so many ways that had I just used my head, I wouldn't be where I am.
Wow.
So I think I would hope that, I'd stay true to my, for me, if you could see, I've never had a word of the year.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever do that.
No, I'm not.
Never.
No. But it sounds interesting. Tell me a little bit more about it.
Some people say that, this year my word is this, and then when I embodied that.
Okay.
And this year, I've never had one, because I've never had a word that,
that embodied. Or
that
you
embody
felt
this. And as cliche as this word is, the feeling that I have is transforms the word. Okay. Transform body, transform mind, transform business.
Okay, transform. I like it.
So everything, this is why I put this little, my intent, I got a Facebook ad for it. Okay. But it's put your word on there, and I don't like wearing anything.
Right.
But this is, to me, this is such a big year that the transformation that I know, physically, that I want to go through, I want it to not change me. I want to stay in more of my authentic self and step more into the person that I've always been, the people that we're all meant to become. Right. That it's already written in the stones. I want to step into that identity. It may not involve a hat. Right. I've worn a hat. I think people associate the hat with me. That new identity may not involve that, but I want to stay true to the essence of why, who I am as a person. I hope a future self comes back and is just a more authentic version of me that I have yet to even see.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
When you think about it now, a younger version of Mark has gotten some advice, some counsel. A current version of Mark has gotten some advice and some counsel. Both of them got it from Mark, but I don't want the audience to feel left out. So if you could leave the audience with one piece of advice, one idea, one thought, what is it that you would want to share with them right now?
Oh, yeah. For anyone on this journey, it is not meant to be one that you go on by yourself. I think that the communities that I have been a part of have been such blessings that everyone in the entrepreneur game says that becoming an entrepreneur is a lonely game. It has never been a lonely game for me. I've never experienced a mark of loneliness. And I think that was because the one thing I did right was invest in community. The thing about investing in community is it is a form of paid traffic. Yeah. So I don't do Facebook ads. I don't do Instagram ads. I don't do any ads. I don't do any paid anything. But the reality is being part of these groups but the community aspect of that is so incredible because you see these people year over year grow with you. The people that I met in 2018 are not the same people. How they've evolved and who they've become. It's just been incredible to see. But that would be, one of those key pieces of advice that I tell people is find a community. And the other piece of it is you are your brand. So how you show up, be the person that you want other people, if this game's not that big. I feel like people learn who people are and learn different personalities very quickly. But I want people to know, when they work with me, that they're going to be taken care of.
Right.
I want to know them to know that they're in good hands, but that's something that's important to me.
Right.
And I don't want to ever lose that. So staying true to yourself and who you are as a person, I think, is critical in this game, because when you get louder and louder, you get put on stages, on pedestals, in a way that you become the person that other people need. And there is one more thing. So this is actually an exercise, if it's okay, that I take all my clients through.
Okay.
And this is just one of my beliefs. I ask clients 2 questions.
Okay. First
question is, are you good at what you do? So Edward, are you good at what you do?
Absolutely.
So there's power that is derived from that question of, are you good at what you do? And then second question is, does what you offer transform lives? Without question. So you look at what you said. You said, without question, what you offer transforms lives. This is a question that I have for any entrepreneur. If you know you're good at what you do, and you know what you offer transforms lives, then there's someone in this world who needs what you have to offer. So you got to get out of your own way.
Absolutely.
And stop getting so in your head about, why you can't get started. And the other piece of this is pricing is not about you. Pricing is not your decision if your customer buys. It's their decision.
Yeah,
if they buy.
I talk about the concept of cost, price, and value. Cost is what goes into making the product or service available to a customer. The price is what you have taken the cost and added in your profit, because profit should be planned. I mean, I'm a huge advocate for net, not gross, because at the end of the day, you have to make sure you're taking money home. Yeah. But ultimately, value is in the mind and in the perception of the one who's receiving it. Yeah. You can't create that for someone else. They have to perceive it themselves.
That right there, right there. But that's where it's just like when I'm like, and the other thing people don't get is increasing your price means you could also serve them at a higher level. You can send them things, you can take care of them, you can put on special events that you just can't do if you're not building in those margins.
100%.
So,
Mark, awesome. I've loved this conversation, and I don't want it to stop for those who are watching. So if someone had some information that they'd like to get from you, they want to learn more about you, want to become part of your community, what's the best way for them to find out more about you and what you're doing?
Yeah, awesome. They can go to customboxagency.com. That's our website. You can get more information there. You can also schedule a free call with us. We have a free Facebook group, Custom Box Central. You're welcome to check us out there. You can hit me up online as well. So pretty active on Messenger.
Wonderful. Mark, thank you so much for being so authentic in this little conversation that we had on a nice day that you flew in order to be here. So thank you so much.
So thank you.
And I can't wait to continue the conversation in the weeks and months ahead, because I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot about what the transformation that you're going through, both in body, mind, and business. I love it.
You got it.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Guys, it's been another episode of Entrepreneur Unleashed. My name is Edward Collins, and I am so happy that you invested some time. I know you got amazing nuggets of wisdom out of this gentleman right here. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, because it does 2 things. One, yes, absolutely, 100%, it helps me. But it also helps you, because you are essentially telling the algorithm the type of content that is value additive to you. So you want to make sure they know about that so that you can get more information like the information you've heard here. I wish you well in your journey. I can't wait to see you on the next episode of Entrepreneur Unleashed. Bye for now.